Good afternoon.
Hi, Tracy.
Hey, how's everybody?
Hanging in there. It's a good week.
Good. Bench, you've had a busy week. Where have you been?
I've been in Carroll, Iowa all week at the APQS National Showroom and Factory. So I've had a good week. Yeah, what have you guys been doing?
Getting the showroom back. I'm getting the store back into. They missed me last week when I was in Iowa, but we just did a big switch over of our point of sale system. So not only am I a quilter, but I'm a tax person and a social media person and all of that stuff, right? Wrapped into everything. So
Yeah.
We did a big push to get a new point of sale system, which is I told everybody last night when we were live, I said, if you see Kathy exit stage left anytime in the near future, that means she's retiring because they're getting a new point of sale and she doesn't want to be a part of it. Because it's an interesting industry when you take something that's a one, like a 15-yard bolt of fabric, and break it into many. The world, it just is like math doesn't exist anymore or something. But anyway, we're getting there. It's all good. Just lots of brain cells have died the last week and a half.
But once it's all up, it's up, right?
Right. And it's up now. It's amazing how we think this technology all like kind of talks to each other when it really does not. Yeah.
It should, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I built my website. So I get it. There's things like fabric, like backing fabric. I sell it in 1/2 meter increments because what else do you do? Then you go to like 1/4 meter increments, and how do you explain that? And then, someone orders 3 and they think they're getting 3 meters. Meanwhile, they're getting 3 1/2 meters. So it's 1.5 meters, which I cut.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah.
I sell mine by the inch, so I get it. I sell my fabric by the inch.
By the inch?
By the linear inch. So every once in a while, I'll get people order 3 inches. I'm like, do you really want 3 inches? Yeah. But I mean, because we all use the same backbone, right? So it came down to having to buy a plug-in to do 1/4 yard increments or just sell it by the inch and say, 9 inches is what, a 1/2 yard? Yeah, 1/2 yard. Or no, it's 1/4 yard. Yeah, 9 inches is a 1/4 yard. I don't know. I'm not at my showroom enough to be able to tell you what the increments are.
Right.
I wish.
Let's talk about something more fun like quilting.
Let's do that because I could just sit here. Yeah.
Is quilting fun?
Maybe.
It can be.
But it could be a love-hate relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's not always fun.
No.
Yeah. How many of you thought you were going to turn your hobby into a job and you were going to love it all the time?
Oh, I hear bells and lovely music when I walk through the door every day. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, the door does actually sing to me every time I walk through to it. So I do hear bells.
Well,
good grief. It's like her bougie lights at home. She's got some fancy thing at the shop as well.
Mine just slams behind me with a big whomp. But anyway.
But you have chimes on your front door, don't you?
We do. So we will know when customers come in. Yes. Because we have a big, long store.
I tied bells to my door one day. They fell off. That was my hack version of a fancy doorbell, but it didn't last long. And then I was afraid that they were bigger bells. Then I was afraid that somebody would open the door too quickly and they would like slam against the door. And then I had visions of the glass breaking. So I just took them off. Which
you would be responsible for, at least.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want any broken glass.
Right.
That's the part that, sometimes at some point we need to talk about, weird things when you open up a store, like being responsible for the plate glass in your store. It just, like, some of those things amaze me that you're responsible for.
The words I hate to hear. Tenant responsibility. Oh, good gravy.
Yeah, that would be one of the reasons I don't like quilting anymore. No, sorry.
No.
Well,
But I love quilting. But then
I love quilting too. Yeah.
Right.
Most of the time. Yeah. as much experience as the three of us have, we still have those days when you can't get your attention to balance. The thread's breaking. You know, you got to pleat. You got to pick it out. It just it's never as easy as I feel like it should be. I mean, I feel like it should be. It just should go smoothly for me because I've been doing this since 2008. You know, and then it doesn't.
Right.
You know,
one of my most fun sayings in the rental room, because I work in the rental room, so I have all of the machines in there. And one of my most favorite sayings, because they'll start getting, oh, my time is getting limited, kind of thing, and I'm like, so never tell the machine you're in a hurry ever, because then you're going to have issues.
Oh gosh, and it's always like almost at the end. You know, if you've been at the end of a long day, it's like the last row. You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
like you lose every round of bobbin chicken, or you know, just one thing after the other.
Oh, yes, king size quilt on the last 12 inches of the border after I just turned it. Oh my gosh. Like,
or you don't have enough backing all of a sudden. You're like, I measured this before I put it on the frame. How can I be 2 inches short on my backing?
Right.
Because we put it on the wrong way around.
Yeah.
But I have a video. I have a video on how you can extend your backing.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
But we deserve it. And that's a good thing to know, though. That's a good thing because everybody makes mistakes. And that's what I love. I think the love part of quilting is, yes, I get frustrated. Yes, I put my needle down. Yes, I curse at my machine and walk away. But I can get back, and as soon as I get clear and headed about a few things, I can fix almost anything.
Yeah. I think for my machine owners, I think they think that every day I'm quilting, nothing goes wrong. And I sail through all of my things, and I never have any tension issues, or my thread doesn't shred, or all those things that happen to not just new people, but it happens to everybody. So that it's not all roses. Just once you get a bunch of experience, it doesn't mean things aren't still going to go wrong. I think we just have more tools in our toolbox to know if this is happening, this is why. So it's just a matter of learning what's causing those issues, and then it's easy to fix them. Right.
Right.
But I think a lot of times the frustration can come with not knowing why something's happening as well. Right. And that's just time. Like we talked about that last week. It's just time.
Yeah.
Time and experience and having all those things. I had my first long arm. I had zero education. The internet wasn't a thing. I figured everything out alone in my basement by doing everything wrong 100 times. I didn't have any choice. There was no education. So I just had to figure it out. I mean, people nowadays, they are so lucky. There's YouTube University, and there's us, and all this help around that. I don't know about you guys, but I had nothing with my first long arm. I didn't even get shown how to thread the thing. So
wow.
Yeah. So I'm the one that didn't actually quilt. I didn't free motion quilt on my domestic machine. I pieced before I became a quilter, right? Or a long arm quilter. So my first machine was an APQS Millennium. I went all in.
Right.
So,
wow. That's cool.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure my husband thought it was cool. I think he would have really liked me to try something that wasn't quite that expensive as my first machine. But yeah.
But so in the end, it was worth it, because look at your business that you turned into. So in the end, it was worth it. I mean, it was a good sacrifice, right?
He can't say it wasn't worth it. He can't say we didn't make the right choice. He can't. There's no way, because I definitely have a successful business, and it's all built off of that first machine.
Put my needle down.
Oh, I've disappeared. I can't spin my damn chair.
I'm just going to start drinking.
Now you don't. Now you see her. Now you
Now
don't.
you don't.
I should not have a spinny chair. I can't sit still.
So when I put my needle down, because I'm having this situation and it's very frustrating, and I walk away for the day and I come back and I can then see so much clearer when I can assess the situation a lot differently and say, oh, well, this was why I was having my tension issue because the thread wasn't on the right path or whatever it is. I feel like I can see better when I'm walk away for a while.
Yeah, because you get frustrated. And if you're in a hurry, that's another thing too, right? If you're on a deadline, I mean, there's so many different scenarios, but you're on a deadline and then this starts happening and then that starts happening. And I think when we get all wound up, that actually causes more problems because then we're not focused on what we're trying to do. We're getting taken up and wrapped around in all that, and then it just makes it worse. And then you don't start thinking about anything logically. Just step away from the issue and just look at it rather than getting your whole identity and self-worth wrapped up in whatever that problem is, right? Yeah. And sometimes you just have to just walk away and come back.
I mean, I used to get really frustrated. I mean, and it was me. It was what I was doing. But I'd get really frustrated with my computer, right? And I would get right up in front of it and say, I'm the boss of you. And then I'd walk out the front door and go get a drink, at the end of where I used to be in my showroom, there was a restaurant at the other end of the building. So I would walk down there and I would get a soda and I would come back. And amazingly, the computer is all of a sudden doing what I ask it to do. That's not the computer having an issue. That's Angela not doing something she's supposed to do, right? But I mean, Michelle that used to work for me used to laugh at me because she'd like, I would see it coming and I would see it coming and you're doing the same thing over and over and over and you're missing a step. And then you would just like, it's like, I'm the boss, you will listen to me, and you'd walk out and I'd come back with a drink for me and a drink for her.
Right.
And it would work, but it's not like, if I'm skipping a step, sometimes you just have to walk away, right? And get yourself out of the situation and then come back.
And I think everybody knows that because people have the same issues piecing, whether it's, their little machine, whether they're crafting something, paper cutting the paper, doing, their scrapbooking. I mean, all of the same areas, we all have the same kind of frustrations, right? Or it doesn't turn out the way you think it should. Or I had this, big thing in my brain, what it should be. And maybe today's not the day I need to be doing feathers.
It's not a backtrack day. That's
a Tracy thing.
Today's a backtrack day. I am going to get that made and put on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's
I say that all the time here, and it's a quilting reference, but it could be insert anything.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a walking and chew gum day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
but when you talk about all that other stuff, I have the same thing because I'm into the sublimation, right? Sublimation thing, and and I got my Cricut and I'm learning how to use that and all that kind of stuff. But that whole sublimation, there are so many, and it's kind of a good mirror for quilting. There are so many aspects of sublimation that have to go right for you to end up with a beautiful tumbler or a beautiful mug. You got the printer, you got the ink, you got the paper, you've got the computer and the programs. You have to have all your colors right. Do you know what I mean?
You have to bake it for the same right amount of time, and you've got it because it's a heat-based process.
It's the time. It's so much, and I'm telling you, I did what I always do. Why get the $100 printer when you can get the Epson 15,000 because it's a wide format, which means it's a lot of money. And I've gone through 4 different kinds of paper and I've reconfigured all my colors in there. And I'm telling you, if I hadn't have spent as much money on that flippin' printer as I did, I would have pitched it all in the garbage because nothing was coming out right. None of the colors were right. And I was in tears because it's like, oh my God, I've spent all this money on all this stuff. And I'm just a loser. I can't figure it out. I'm in sublimation groups. Everybody's posting these beautiful tumblers and their colors are vibrant. Everything's crystal clear. And I got a big, nasty, soggy, wrong colored mess. You know what I mean? And I almost quit. But I walked away and I left it. And then I would just try one thing, you know? And then when it finally all kind of clicked together, and now it's smooth sailing. But I mean, it won't be without issues still, but it takes a while to figure it out. And you get frustrated and you hate it.
Oh yeah.
I didn't think it was such a good idea.
I was talking to my friend, one of the teachers that teaches here, and she was talking about, she gave a talk several years to a guild about the relationship. Like you go through like all of the stages, you walk in, you got this brand new fabric, you're so excited and elated, and you can do this, right? And you got this beautiful fabric and it's just gorgeous and you're so excited. And then you start pressing it and you start cutting it and then you start piecing it and you put it up in the wall and you're like, really? That doesn't look good. I can't do this. I'm a terrible quilter. Oh my gosh, I can't do this. Wait, it's starting to look okay. I think I can do this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And then you get done. She's like, I think I do that. Look at that. That looks really good. So you have all of the emotions in one project.
Oh, for sure.
In 10 minutes. One project. So you know what I had to do this week? I had to purposely mess up my tension. As many times as I've had bad tension in my life, don't you think I could do it?
Not when you're on the spot.
Do you know that happens to me when I'm teaching my new owners class?
Yes.
I'll say, okay, we're going to jack this right up. And then we're going to fix it so I can explain. Last time, I couldn't get my tension to suck. Not once. I was seriously messing with stuff. It was like, well, all right, well, we'll deal with it by video call.
Yeah.
On to rulers. Let's play with rulers and stencils and have some fun.
I tightened the tension disc all the way up against the side of the machine. Like, that thread should have been breaking. I don't know. And it was like, yeah, it's not even breaking.
No.
When you need it to do what you don't need it to do, it won't do what you need it to do.
Yeah, I was under pressure to get it to not do right.
Right.
They were like, can you make the tension not do right so we can see you balance the tension? Sure. No. Great. Right? But
That's pretty
it all
funny.
worked out. It was amazed how stressful it was because I wasn't getting it to fail. I mean, I want this to fail. It's not failing. And I'm like, it was completely stressful. I'm like, that's a good thing, right? But it's hard to make it fail. And that's one of the things I found with the newer APQS machines. I used to be able to mess the tension up in a booth and show people what bad tension was pretty easily, right? And these new machines, I have to work at it.
Huh.
And it's the same tension disc. That's what gets me. It's like the tension disc is the same between all of the machines.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why.
I'll just say and I think most of the time the issue is right here between my two ears.
Yeah.
Because it's totally me. It's like that same thing that Tracy talks about. When we talk about thread, it's not your machine doesn't like it. It's between your ears that's having a hard time with it. It's that learning the tension, right?
Yeah, my machine's not allowed to have an attitude. That's not okay.
Right.
Sometimes I have to leave the building, tell it and leave the building and come back in, but it's not allowed to have an attitude.
Right.
Well, and here's a good story. This just happened. One of my customers has a Lucy with a quilt path. I sold him a bunch of Fantastico thread because I love it. And he came in last week, or was it this week? Doesn't matter. He came in holding one of those cones of thread, and he says, Lucy hates this thread. It keeps breaking. I've tried everything. I've changed my tension. I've played with my bobbin tension. And he rhymed off all these things that he'd done, except he hadn't called me. Anyway, so I took the cone of thread and I looked at it And I said, I'm looking at it, and I said, Stephen, this cone of thread doesn't look right. At the bottom of the cone, you know how it's right? The bottom of the cone, it looks like it was miswound. So down at the bottom of the cone, it was like jumbled. Do you know?
Was it like a puddle down towards the bottom?
Yeah, it just.
I've had a Fantastico do that too, where it was like all mushy, weird at the bottom.
It didn't look right. It just didn't look right. And I said, here. So I took a same color. I took one off the shelf. I handed it to him. I said, take that home and try it. Yeah. And he texted me the next morning, and he said, I've apologized to Lucy. It wasn't Lucy. It was the cone.
Yeah.
So simple, but we make it hard.
We have to look outside just the machine and the tension discs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Because once he replaced that cone of thread, I just tossed it in the garbage. But I mean, it happens, right? But
I don't even think that it's a winding issue. I mean, it's like part of it slid down the cone on mine. It was just this weird thing at the bottom.
Yeah.
And we all have it shipped because none of us are local, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't look right. I can't really describe it, and I've tossed it, so I can't show it to you. But he was very happy, and he said he had apologized to Lucy, and it wasn't her fault. And
I didn't mean to slander you.
No, he said we've made up now. I said, well, that's good.
Well, so and here's the other thing. I think the part that I think is interesting is just, I think we overthink things. I am huge. I overthink things, and like an example of like when we're dealing with these beautiful machines, and now we put the quilt path on them, and we're trying to educate our customers on okay, great example. I think our customers, and I even think I did this at the very beginning, give that computer or give my machine too much credit. Like maybe it can't do something, but I think it should, right? So a great example is when we have a thread break, trying to explain the last stitch versus closest stitch, because they think the last stitch is where the thread broke. I'm like, the machine has no it does not know where the thread broke. It's where it stopped stitching on the XY axis, if you think about that as a grid. But the closest stitch gets us back to where it actually,
where your long arm is.
Right. And if you explain that to the customers, then all of a sudden, like this enlightenment happens. It's like a beautiful thing because they were overthinking it, or who knows, right? You know, kind of like I have been guilty of that. I'm going to be guilty of that in the future.
I think it's what I see, because, okay, I teach a lot of people computers, right? Mm-hmm. And for some reason, they don't think they're as smart as the program.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting because the program's not smart. It can't do anything without you. Right. And that would be true of any program, right? You have to do something with it for it to be able to do anything.
Right.
So the fact that they think it's smarter than them just kind of floors me. I'm like, no.
Right.
No, that's not the way this works.
But
right?
We're always quick. I am. It's my fault.
Yes.
I'm an idiot. I'm a loser. I'm stupid. I'm never going to figure this out.
Right.
And it also has to do our generation and older, right? How were we taught to do computers? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I was in high school the first time I was in a computer class, and it was, you don't touch anything you don't touch any button or do anything that I didn't tell you to do. I mean, if we did, we were out of the class. It was just that easy. You did exactly what you were told to do when you were told to do it, and you touched no buttons that you were not allowed to touch. So what that's done is created a generation of people that are actually afraid of computers, because I can do something to destroy this computer easily if just touching a button is going to, completely destroy the computer. And yet, our kids, our grandkids, right? They are taught, here's a computer, touch all the buttons. You're not going to hurt anything. Find out what it does.
Right. Yes.
So that's part of it too, is us, learning to learn a different way. Right. And it is more frustrating to live in a world where you can't touch the buttons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not fun. And, if that's part of that whole teaching yourself to love what you're doing is you're allowed to touch buttons. It's not going to hurt the machine. It's not going to hurt the computer. Right?
Right.
All I remember from high school was it was some kind of business class. I don't know why it was called business. Maybe it wasn't called business. Anyways, Brainiac here. All I remember is a bunch of zeros and a bunch of ones. I can't remember even what that's called. Angela, what's it called with all the zeros and the ones?
So programming is done in zero is what it's the bits is what it is, but it's programming is done in zeros and ones.
Well, it was like 0 0 1 1 1 0 1 0 0 0 1.
That's how we used to program. Yeah.
Foreign language. I did much better in French class, and then I think I ended my year that year like 35% or something. It was just my eyes, just like no.
Isn't it machine language that's the 0 0 0 1 1 0?
No, some binary thing. Is it binary?
Binary. Yeah.
Binary? That's the
Yeah.
language, right? With the zeros and the ones? Anyways,
So.
regardless, I sucked at it and I failed the class.
I don't know. I'm a quilter. I'm not going to know that. I could probably ask my rocket scientist husband and he would tell me. Well, so that's a great example. Sometimes I think we either expect too much or we give them too much credit. I love referring to the computer when I teach the quilt path and QCT. I love referring to it as it's a 16-year-old girl. It therefore thinks it knows better, and we are the adult, and we're going to tell it no. This is the way it should be.
One of our reps refers to hers as her toddler.
Yes.
She doesn't leave it in the room by itself.
No, don't leave toddlers in a room alone. No.
Well, she doesn't leave her quilt path in a room alone either. I just looked at her.
Oh, she doesn't. Okay, I misunderstood.
Bye, Kathy.
You said I was going to say, please don't leave toddlers alone.
Sorry.
Did everyone see Kathy's lights go out? That was kind of cool the way she danced and they come back on.
Clap on, clap off. Okay. Sorry. Totally dating myself.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just looking at their backgrounds going, wow, they have pretty quilts and I have the back of a hotel room.
Yeah. Apparently I did not pay my
Can I see your pillows? Is that your pillow?
Yes, you can see the pillows on the bed behind me. There's the bed behind me. I am in a hotel room.
Dude, you could have made the bed.
And it is made.
Oh, is it made?
Oh,
okay.
It is made. There's one pillow that was for some reason on the foot of the bed and I just kind of threw it towards the top. But no, it hasn't been slept in.
All good.
Here, would you like me to like move that pillow so it's straight for you, Tracy? Is that the problem?
See, here's the thing with my brain. Angela knows this. I can be surrounded in chaos. It bugs me, but I can be surrounded in chaos. Mm-hmm. If there's something on a wall and it's crooked, I cannot handle it. I used to take my dad to Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto for his cancer treatments. And the waiting room, monster waiting room that we would have to wait in, had this huge piece of art on the wall, like bolted to the wall. It was crooked.
Oh, the worst.
Not on an angle that looks like it's artsy. It's crooked.
Just off.
The first time I saw it, I tried to straighten it. And then that's when I realized that it was actually bolted to the wall. I'm telling you, every time we went, we would have to sit somewhere so that I couldn't see it. Like we'd have to sit in the chairs that face the other way. But it still bugged me that I knew it was behind me and it was crooked and I couldn't change it.
Now I know that pillow's behind me crooked and it's driving me nuts. Excuse me.
But how can all the chaos that I'm sure it has an effect on my mental well-being, but the chaos, but one crooked picture, I can't handle it.
Oh, yeah.
It drives me crazy. It makes no sense.
Yes, I'm with you.
But we can't see your crooked pillow, so it's fine.
It's fine. We see your beautiful face. It's all good.
And you're not pink today.
I'm pink today.
I'm not. I have better light today. Yeah.
You're so beautiful, and I love your hair.
Thank you.
It looks
Very
great.
nice.
Yeah.
I blew it dry yesterday. It's the first time for everything. I haven't done that in a really long time.
Well, we also don't have humidity quite yet either. So you're right at the right time in the Midwest where it's kind of nice.
And you have that hair that would be a workout to blow dry anyway. I used to be a hairstylist, so I know
It
how long
is.
it would take to dry, and I can understand why you don't do it every day.
Yeah, it's thick. It's kind of coarse. It holds the water. And yeah, it takes me about just over an hour to dry it when I'm doing it with a round brush. It's rough, which is why I don't do it. You'll see me with my natural kind of wavy curly thing going on most of the time. But yeah.
Looks good. It looks good. Did you get different glasses?
I didn't. Nope, not yet. That's going to happen next month.
Baby steps. Baby
Baby
steps.
steps.
Baby steps with the changes.
So at some point, well, probably before, I don't remember if it's before or after the next go live. My glasses may not be in at that point, but I will be going to pick them out before then. So yeah, and then I have a hair appointment too. So I'm going to look completely different.
You're going to look fabulous, but right.
You're going to look wonderful. Hey, that's a good thing. While we're here, we could ask the lovely people who are watching our podcast, what would you like to see on one of our Wednesday night lives? We've talked about thread. We've talked about batting. It is a Q&A. It's a live Q&A.
Yeah.
But if there something now, keep in mind with a Q&A, I mean, we can't go like to the depths of the subject, but we can certainly talk about things. Mm-hmm. If you've got any ideas or any thoughts on what we could do for a live, I'd love the feedback in the comments.
I know that there's been a couple people who've wanted us to do some business topics, which, that's great.
Might not want to hear what we have to say.
Yeah, because
I want us to talk about backings. Wide versus pieced, and how you would load a piece as opposed to wide, and what to look out for and all those kind of things. So I think that's what we're doing on our next one, isn't it? We're going to talk about backings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but in the comments below, whoever's channel you're watching it on, whether you're on Kathy's channel, Angela's channel, or mine, just post in the comments if there's something specific that you'd like to be a part of the Q&A on a Wednesday night. We'd appreciate that.
Very much so. What would be some advice that you would give new owners or old owners or any owner on how to avoid your frustrations?
Angela.
Try to be realistic about what's frustrating you, right? So if something's frustrating you, take a step back, look at what is actually causing the frustration, and then address that, as opposed to trying to just work through whatever's going on. And there are times that you can't do that, right? But most of the time, if you take a step back, life gets better, right? And try to, not let it phase you quite as much, right? I find if I walk out the front door and walk around the parking lot and walk back in, things usually get better. And I mean, at my current showroom, my parking lot only holds like maybe 10 cars. So it's not like it's very big, but just circling around that parking lot and coming back in, I'm like, okay, I reset and like everything's going to be okay again. It doesn't always work, but normally it does. And usually I find that what is frustrating me isn't what I'm actually trying to do at that moment. There's 101 other things going on in my life that I just need to give myself time to work through something, right? Because even, I'll be working on a machine, but I'll be thinking about something at home, right? Or I'm worried about my mother-in-law, or, I'm beating myself up because I haven't called my mom recently, right?
Right.
So yeah.
There could be underlying situations that, right.
Yeah.
What about you, Tracy? Oh, go, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Tracy, what about you?
Well, and that's the kind of thing I think I was talking about earlier. It's like some days you can some days you're going to be able to handle the challenges, and it can be as simple as a tension issue or I don't know, or something like really big. I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head at the minute. But it depends what your mindset was going in, right? And like you said, if you're thinking about all these things and then, because I do that to myself too. If I'm having a rough day, first, I don't even know why I do it. Well, I'm going to do this instead then, knowing full well before I even start doing that it's going to give me a hard time. Like I'll go from one frustrating thing to another. And sometimes it's just like I feel like I'm just being masochistic at that point. It's like I'm just trying to drive myself crazy because apparently I'm not upset enough. I just have to just keep going and just
pile on more.
Let it all pile on and pile on and pile on till it becomes this big thing. So the same thing, just walk away, do something else. And this isn't just for like piecing. If you're piecing, and I don't know, it's been a long time since I pieced, so I'm kind of talking off the top of my head here, but you can't get your points right, or you're trying to do something with Y seams and that's not quite working out, and it turns into this huge thing where you just want to toss it all under the thing. And that's what happens to a lot of projects, I'm sure.
Right.
You get so frustrated with it that you just shove it in a drawer under the table. Forget it. I'm never doing that. I have had times where it's been a very good thing that my long arm, any of the long arms over the years, have been on a frame and are not immediately able to come off the frame and be tossed out the front door or the basement window.
It's more work to take
the only thing that's saving you is the fact that you're on a frame. Otherwise, out you go.
Or maybe some of the home domestic machines are too heavy to walk upstairs to throw out the window, right?
And lift them out, right? Absolutely.
I could say my domestic machine weighs more than my long arm, for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes.
Oh yeah, so does mine. They're heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're heavy. But yeah, you just and put it into it's hard to do when you're in the minute as well. But you have to put it into perspective.
I tend to laugh at myself. You know what I mean? Like, because I guess maybe the situations I've been through my moving around all the time and not having family by me as I'm raising my kids in whatever situation I'm in, I'm like, okay, God, bring it on. Kind of, you know what I mean? All right. Ha ha. I laugh in the face of danger, whatever that is, right? Kind of thing.
Right.
I have a tendency probably to, and then what that does is that breaks the ice for me to realize, oh my gosh, I'm all tense. I'm hunched over. I'm all frustrated. I'm not breathing. And it helps me to break that ice to get me out of this situation for a second, to get back into like, okay, take a deep breath, then stop squeezing the handles of the machine so tight or, any of that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, we're lucky that we're not flying an airplane or, doing heart surgery. We're working on beautiful quilt machines. And it's a good thing to be able to take a breath and obviously I want to take care of our customers as much as I can and as fast as I can. But it also needs some education on, if we are doing something like custom quilting, to please give your long armor the time and the patience for him or her to be in the right mind, or whatever is going to be happen for that creativity to flow.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between doing edge to edge quilting for people and custom quilting, because custom quilting, you have to be mentally and emotionally invested in it and enjoying it. Otherwise it's not. It's hard to free motion happy things when you're frustrated. So you have to be in the right mind.
Or sad.
I would say even computerized, when you're placing things, you've got to be in the right mind. I mean, custom quilting is so technical, no matter how you're doing the quilting, that you've got to be able to handle the extra stress of having to be that precise, right? So yeah. It doesn't matter to me if I'm free motion quilting it or if I'm doing it on the computer. I got to do it on a good day. It's got to be a good backtrack day, good quilting day for me to be able to do that. And, there's times that I go in and I'm like, I can't do it today. So I'll load an edge to edge quilt on real quick and put it through. We're going to quilt either way that day, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just one over another because of whatever reasons. I need to tell a story. This goes to the love part.
Okay.
Yesterday, I had two ladies in renting the machines, to not together, but they were here at the same time. Both were quilting vintage quilts.
Yes.
Pat, and I've got photos and video. I don't think I'll interject them in this video, but I will get them out on social media somehow. Both ladies gave me permission. So I had two beautiful women here quilting quilts that were not theirs. They were carrying the story on to get them finished for the people who had started them.
Oh, yes.
Oh gosh, I'm going to try not to cry. So Pat's one belonged a lady that she works with. She's in her 80s. This quilt was made by her great aunt, like 100 years ago. I'm not exaggerating. 100 years ago.
That's
so. It's so delicate, and parts of it are so thin. And she did all this hand stitching to put like all the hand piecing back together and all this stuff. Anyway, she brought it in yesterday and she put a wide back on it. She used sateen, actually, the 118 wide.
Oh, yeah.
She turned it inside out so it's not shiny on the back.
Right.
And she quilted a beautiful, it's actually called filigree for elements. And it's just, for those of you who don't know, it's just this beautiful little loopy, tiny design that sort of looks like lace.
It's beautiful.
So we needed something dense so that it would hold all those very delicate seams together, because this lady wants to pass this down to her daughter before she leaves this earth. And I am so sorry.
Anyway, you're fine.
I got the story, and it was just a beautiful story. And Pat jumped in, and she used her hand to help prepare it, and then quilt it, and then bind it. And the other lady, oh my gosh, I'm all flustered now. And the other lady that was here yesterday, she was quilting. Her name's Jonna, by the way. She was quilting a hexagon quilt that was all hand pieced and really old that somebody didn't get to finish. So she finished the piecing on it. She had to finish some of the piecing with her machine. So she said, like, trying to get the new parts of the quilt to match the old parts of the quilt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she quilted on Millie, and Pat was over on Lucy, and they both quilted these huge quilts, like 100 wide, 100 by 100. They both finished at the same time. Aww. And I managed to get like quick videos of them both quilting in the beginning and both at the end, and we took pictures. And then this morning, Pat sent me, she'd gone to work this morning, and the lady that she did this for, she works with, and she sent me a picture of her holding it. It still needs to be bound, but just getting to see that it was all put together and finished. And I cried again this morning because it's just such a beautiful story. And this quilt that's all these years old and never got finished. It survived a fire. It's got stains on it from being in a fire. She managed to get most of them out, but some of them aren't. I really, really loved quilting yesterday.
Yes.
And it had nothing to do with me, but just the stories and how good these two women felt all day long while they were doing what they were doing. And when they both left, it was the best feeling that I got to be just a little tiny part of the stories of those quilts. It was just fabulous. It was just fabulous. And they're beautiful. And they both did a great job. And it was so exciting. But it was cool.
That's the best part of the living this dream, like working with that's it. Yes. Sometimes happy accidents where I get frustrated. One time I had this quilt, and I was quilting for this family that they called around saying, do you have, so-and-so's quilt? And I'm like, well, I do, yes. And she goes, well, she passed away. Right. So already I'm like, oh my gosh, can I quilt it for you? Do you want me to finish the process? And I did. They let me finish it. Well, the frustrating part in the middle of it, my hate part of it, is my quilt path moved the pantograph down this much. Right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? When it was a real meandery kind of pantograph. And I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I'm like, thinking about it and what am I going to do? Praying about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like weighing on my heart. And all of a sudden I'm like somebody whispered in my ear, it must have been an angel. Maybe it was a lady. And she said, write love grandma in the middle of it. Right. So I called them. I said, what are you guys going to, I know this is a baby blanket made for somebody. What will be her name? And I'm going to write from love, whatever you want to call her. And I got the chance to do that and hand it to him. And it was like what your experience. It was just goosebumpy awesome. Like I got to be the privilege of part of this, a small, small part of this great journey that's going to be forever in their family. Right.
Yeah.
How lucky are we?
It's good, right?
We are. It is good.
It's good.
Takes away any frustration ever happened. Okay. Sorry. Slate's clean. I'm starting over with a clean slate of frustration. It's all clean. It all went away.
Those are the things. I had a customer several years ago. She found me. I don't know how she found me, and I quilted quilt after quilt for like she just kept bringing me another one and another one, and I said like, we just got talking one day, and I said like, you're just, you're a beast with all these quilting, and that's when she told me that she wanted to make sure that everybody she loved got a quilt before she passed away. And she was young, younger than me. And I didn't know because she looked so healthy. She had cancer. And she was on a mission, man. And she would bring them to me and I would put them at the front of the line. Like I didn't care how big the lineup was. When that girl brought me a quilt, she got it like within a day or 2 days. It got done for her. They were all edge to edge, but it got done so that she had the chance to bind them, label them, and give them or put them away. And her very last quilt, she didn't get to pick up. So her mom came to pick it up. And oh my gosh, we cried and cried and cried. But it was a beautiful thing too, because she just kept making them to give them so that everybody would have a part of her before she or after she left. And she let me be part of that. And that was, that moment with her mom, when her mom came to pick up those quilts. Whew.
That's the same with this family. That it was, I had to walk. It took all of my energy not to cry. And I think I did, and I think they did. And it's just been amazing, right? We're lucky. This quilting world has so many woven stories. Like we can say that, and pun intended.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. I have a customer that I've quilted for years, and I was in my first showroom, so it had to have been, 6-7 years ago. She brought a quilt in. It was for her daughter, and it was a chemo quilt. You just don't expect them to tell you that. And I think that, being able to, you're a part of their lives. You don't even realize it, right? And on this one, we didn't think she was going to make it. She did. She's still with us today.
Yay!
I know. I was like, yes, one of them made it. And saw her like right before I went to Iowa. She was in the showroom and I happened to be there. And she's like, yeah, she's doing great. Like, I know. And she's got a form of blood cancer. So yeah, it wasn't good when they saw it. And it's amazing to me how we touch people's lives and we don't even realize it. Because same thing, when she told me that, I'm like, this is going through right now. Like yes. I had that quilt done in under a day because I'm like, no, it's got to be done. She's got to have her quilt, So yeah, and the ironic thing was, I don't think she'd ever made her daughter a quilt. And then, I'm like, yeah, she needs to have a quilt of her own. It's yeah. So
Isn't
yeah,
it amazing too to see the therapy, that quilting, like that probably helped that lady Tracy all along her
yeah,
treatment, her journey to make sure
Oh,
she
for
was
sure.
maybe even lengthened her life a little bit because she had this thing that she had to do.
yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't it amazing? I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
was. It
Just
was.
This
kind of want
quilting
to
world
keep
is
inventing
amazing.
someone so she has another person to focus on.
Right. Well, I mean, we can go on for stories forever. I mean, I got a gentleman who started quilting when he was 78. He's still quilting. He does the whole process. It's amazing to see like the joyful, the stories, the awe-inspiring stories. But that's the love of quilting, right? Like this quilting is it touches it touches my soul. It touches my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why I keep going, though, is that 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 it does, right? Um, Even when things are bad and things aren't going the way that I want them to go, and it's that bad day, you still know there's going to be a positive outcome, right? So
Yeah.
it's a little different than my last job, but there was no positive outcome, right? The only
Right.
positive outcome was that I quit, right?
Right.
It's not like that with quilting, and I think that's the thing that amazes me is that it's always going to end up with something positive happening that keeps you in it. Um, because it would be easy to give up some days.
Oh,
There are days that I'm like, what? Why do I do this? Why, and then other days that I'm like, I'm the luckiest girl in the world. I get to do this. Right. Yeah. And
And
it can
don't
be
you
that.
just love the texture?
Yeah.
Like,
I still like, at my favorite days are the days that I have been custom quilting and I take that quilt off the frame.
mm-hmm.
And I really like it if it has a solid backing and you can see the quilting on the back. It's like the heavens open up, right? And you're just like, this is why I do this, right?
the texture.
It's the texture.
Beautiful.
100, yeah. Oh,
Yesterday, I did for each one of them, for Pat and Jonna. I learned that I can turn the backlight off and it will it gives the side light, right?
mm-hmm.
So I took their pictures and then I think I did it with Jonna first. I said, okay, watch this. So I took her picture, lights are on, everything like that. I turned these lights off. So it was just the lights from the back coming across. And then the side light with the quilt. She literally, because you can really see like the texture and the stitches and like in the shadows and all that kind of stuff. And then we took some pictures and she was blown away. She was even more excited about it then. And then we went to the back and I did the same thing with Pat. So we turned off the back light and left the front light on. And then all that side light hit it. And all that filigree, that 100-year-old quilt looked like it was covered in lace, like with the depth and it's so yummy.
Yep.
Yes.
So yummy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And isn't it fun when they're runners and they didn't realize they could do it?
Right.
Oh,
and they
gosh.
did.
I mean,
that's even more exciting when
they of us have rental programs, so we all get to see that, right?
Yes.
I get to see people fall in love with longarm quilting.
Yes.
All the time, and I love it. They'll be partway through, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so much fun!" I'm like, "Right? Your life will never be the same."
Right. I just pinch myself every morning that I get to do what I do. I am the lucky. I say it over and over again, and I truly mean it from my heart that I'm the lucky one that I get to be a part of this quilting community, and I get to serve this quilting community.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
Yep.
I would like more time for free motion.
Yeah.
I've been watching some of my videos. Man, I was a design machine.
You were a design machine. How many of us would like to see another like 20 videos from Tracy?
Why limit it to 20?
Well, I was thinking 100, but I didn't want to stress her out.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to do that either.
Be careful. That's how that whole thing started. Somebody said, I bet you can't do a design a day for a whole month. I'm like, a month?
Yeah, it was like, I was trying to say 25 or 30, and you're like, hold back.
Hold my beer.
I don't drink alcohol, so hold my Timmies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would like to, I need to carve out more time for me to just play on the machines, because I don't do that anymore.
And that could be great advice to everybody else too. Get some more me time, get you and me time on that, you know, machine and mommy time, machine and quilter time with that, right? Kind of thing.
Without it having to become something. And I'm notoriously terrible for that. Mm-hmm. Why? This is currently a tablecloth. Why would I just quilt this if it wasn't going to become something? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So just load some stuff and just play and have fun without having to be something or without having to complete it. Just do it because you love it.
Yes.
And find the joy back in that when you're not having a good backtrack day.
Right. Well, I think we should end there on a good positive note.
I think so.
I agree.